Yeah.
Hi, welcome to the podcast with Jon. Hi, Jon.
Hey, Emily, thanks for having me.
You are very welcome. So to introduce you, Jon is a very experienced senior IT project manager based in Leeds, who has experience running really large-scale transformational projects. Really excited to have him on the podcast today. We're going to be talking about leadership. So to start us off, Jon, could you explain where it all started and your inspirations?
Yeah, sure, Emily. So I haven't always been in leadership roles. I started off as a follower, like we all do, and I got the opportunity to lead a little task when I was working for the Halifax, now Lloyd's Banking Group, and completely terrified myself. Thankfully, my dad, who I lost just before Christmas, he was a born leader. He'd come from the forces. He was a really good guy. And he just turned around and told me to not overthink it. Best piece of advice I got was look after your lads. I know that's kind of sexist, but the whole point is look after everybody that's on your team. So I went in and I thought, right, here's the goal. Here's the people I've got to work with. Let's get this done. And it just flowed naturally from there. I found within a couple of weeks, I found I was actually enjoying the standing on a surfboard, going at Mach 5, juggling plates, and I've not stopped. I've been doing this now. I've been doing projects now for about 25 years. So amazing, I've aged myself there.
That's some really good advice. So making it all about the team, like you say, so making it all about them.
Absolutely, and that's what makes a good leader, realizing it's not about you. It's about making sure your team are all happy. I always keep my team close, but I keep them at an arm's length to the business, because there's nothing worse than when you're delivering a project, micromanagement. It doesn't help anybody. It pisses people off, if I can say that. So I keep my team close to me, and if anybody wants them, they come through me.
Yeah,
and that seems to get better results. Seems to get a lot better results.
Definitely. So yeah, great stuff. And what would you say, Jon, makes a good leader?
Being willing to jump in the trenches. You can't be sat there on your throne or your seat above everybody else going, do this. Do that. You've got to pretty much show them that you're in it together. If your team see that you're willing to sweat and bleed alongside them, especially when you're putting the hard yards in, that makes a good leader. I was working for Anthony Robbins, the American life coach, 2010, 2011, 2012, and I had one of the best leaders there teaching me. His name was Richard. He lives in Florida. He's got an architecture firm, and he just trusted me. He did exactly what I did. He trusted me. He gave me the headset. He said, right, you're doing my job. Off you go. And I took to it like a duck to water, and I still call him now for advice. So,
brilliant. Having that trust in your team.
Never be afraid to actually reach out and say, I don't know everything. Your team don't expect you to know everything, but as long as when the chips are down, you're in the trenches with them, I think that's what makes a good leader.
You're part of the team, you're leading by example then, aren't you? Rather than, like you say, sitting at a hierarchy, it's you're in with them at the same level, yeah.
And
nice.
I mean, another guy I'd like to name drop is Raphael Scala at Telefonica Tech, who knew what I was doing and didn't stop me doing it, but I was mentoring the team, the junior PMs, because I knew that if I got to them and I could show them how to manage a project effectively, it'd set the business up for success. So, that's kind of something. I know it wasn't the question, but leaving a legacy is something, obviously, with the recent loss of my parents, I've been thinking about. And Raphael was a good leader in that he knew what I was doing and let me get on with it.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I like that you've touched on different people that have influenced you as well and been your inspiration, because we do learn from, various different people that, we meet, that we work with, and then we see something that we like that works, and then we do the same. So,
I don't agree with everything he does, but Tony Robbins has a great quote, and I've actually had the privilege to hear it in the room. And he says, when you find somebody that's doing what you want to do, model them. And at the NEC a couple of weeks ago, when I met Arnold Schwarzenegger, he talks about the same thing. And he talks about when he wanted to be a bodybuilder, he modelled Reg Park. When he wanted to be an actor, he modelled Clint Eastwood. When he wanted to be a politician, he went to people like George Bush and asked the questions.
So when you say model, is that like, similar kind of behaviours, similar kind of action, activity?
Yeah. So it's if you watch how somebody delivers something, and then I don't think it's the right term to use, but ape their behaviour. If they're close to their team, if they're an open book, if they're very eager to get things over the line and they're demonstrating that work ethic, model those behaviours and you'll find you adopt them. And it makes you better at whatever you're doing. So,
see it in practice, how other people are doing it, and then basically copy that. Yeah.
In a nutshell, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, in a nutshell, yeah. No, that's great. It's really good advice. And what is your speech? You've got a certain speech which you have. So could you please share your speech?
So I'm a bit of a movie buff. Anybody that follows me on LinkedIn will see that I do costuming. I use movie quotes. And this actually came out of a lesson from my father and the most unlikely movie ever, Starship Troopers, which is a movie. And Michael Ironside's character says, I've only got one rule. Everybody fights, nobody quits. So I stole it. So I only have one rule. You work hard or I'll get rid of you myself. I will protect you from everybody else in this organisation. The only person you talk to me is me. If the program director calls you, if the CEO calls you, tell them to go away politely and call me. I'm the face. If you have any problems, you call me. I don't want to hear about it secondhand. If you have any successes, by all means, ring at any time, Teams me, whatever, and say, John, we've got this over the line. As long as you keep me up to date, I will leave you alone. If I come to you, it will be to ask for an update. Otherwise, I'll touch base in the morning with you. I'll touch base at night before we log off. But otherwise, you'll have the day to yourself. I am going to trust you. And that's my speech. I actually had somebody I worked with at Telefonica Tech come back to me 6 months after we both left. And he said, I recommended you for a job to work with me because I don't want to work with any other PM.
Nice. There you go.
That was a nice little ego boost. And people that I've just finished working with at Immobis, a couple of those have said the same thing. We want to work with you again. So, God willing, I'll get to work with these guys again. But it's a big world. There's a lot of projects out there. But that's the speech. It just does seem to get people.
It's really effective, isn't it? It's sort of laying out the expectation from the start, isn't it? And then you're coming across as very approachable. Then people will ring you up with the good news rather than, should I let John know? Because you've asked them to do that. Makes you a lot more approachable.
It's setting your stall out at the top of the call. This is, much like you did with the introduction. This is what we're working with. So that speech hasn't failed me yet. It's been challenging at times, but it's not failed me yet.
Yeah, and having their back as well, I think is another really important thing, that you're prepared to support them with any problems which they have, that you will deal with those. Gives them confidence that you're going to help them and support them.
Yeah, it's not just project management. You can take it into anything else. You can take it into your own business. You can take it into your family. Just be present. Don't dodge things. Be an effective communicator and be clear and concise in what you're saying. This is what I expect from you. This is what I'm going to give you. Let's get to the goal. And that's how you do it. My dad's been gone for coming up on 5 months now, and he's still teaching me lessons.
Yeah,
So,
you'll still
that's
remember what he's taught you. That will never
absolutely,
fade. Yeah,
absolutely. If I make a
that's
bullheaded
amazing.
play, he'll shit. I can hear him in my head going, really?
Yeah, amazing. Thank you. No, that's wonderful. Okay, so what to do when things go wrong?
Or as everybody else calls it, project management. Uh, the first most important thing is to not lose your cool. Don't shout, don't scream, because you're just going to annoy people. And they're going to realise you can't handle pressure. Things going wrong is part of projects. It's not always perfect. So the first thing to do is understand the problem. Why are we not where we want to be? And rather than casting blame, because that doesn't help anybody, how did we get here? So we had a big management information platform that we were delivering for a client, and we let somebody go because of their behaviour, and it then fell on the manager of that department who was already stretched way too thin. I ended up with the entire department. I ended up with the manager, and I ended up with 2 consultants, and I even pulled in one of my contractors from another project to say, I need help on this. And it was the ability level of the person that had picked the work up was vastly different to the ability level of the person that we'd let go. So what should have taken a month ended up taking a year. And I didn't see it close because I'd left by then. But the key lessons were understand what's gone wrong, keep your cool, don't chuck blame around because it doesn't help anybody. Have a plan to get out of it and work with your team on that plan. Implement that plan and give your stakeholders the confidence that you are implementing that plan. That can be a daily stand-up, that can be a weekly check-in. Because this project was so high profile, I did a daily stand-up every morning. I did a close of play email update to the program director and the CEO. And then on a Friday, I did a massive comprehensive email across all my work streams that I called the State of the Union. My American side coming out there. And that was, everything was broken down. So there was a clear level of, things have gone wrong on this project. Here's the plan I've put in place. And it was well received by everybody. They just forwarded it on to the CEO of the entire company rather than just the CEO of the UK and went, this is where we are on the management information piece. Jon's got it.
You've made a plan to move forward to improve.
Yeah.
And sometimes that means drastic changes, right? With certain allocations of different people perhaps that's needed, or it can be quite difficult to make big changes.
Yeah, you've got to be dispassionate about it. You can't be, I'm going to keep hold of Fred because he's a friend. I'm gonna let Trevor go because Trevor's caused this. That's not going to help anybody. If you've got a project that's niche and this person's demonstrated that they're absolutely phenomenal, you need to do everything you can to keep them. And if that means they work one-on-one with the project manager instead of the rest of the team, so be it. But yeah, definitely understand what's going on, have a plan, and then report on it.
Yeah, amazing. No, that's great. Thank you. Good structure there. What is the importance of governance and showing your progress towards a goal?
So that kind of touches on what I've just been speaking about in when things go wrong. It gives your governance, makes sure that the stakeholders, so that can be the project sponsor and the client, it can be just the project sponsor, but your governance is a way to show, this is where the target is, this is what we're delivering, this is the progress against it. At any given moment, I expect to be called, Jon, where are we on this? And I can go down my report and I can go, right, okay, here you go. I got exposure to a document when I was at CDW. I was on two programs there, and I looked at how they were doing governance, and how I was doing governance. And I took some of their ideas. Instead of 3 or 4 documents, just have one. Just have a big Excel spreadsheet with everything on, and have tabs behind it. And every time you have a meeting, you fill a tab in and go, this is what was discussed at this meeting. But you always pull the actions forward to the front page so that you've got a clear picture of these are the tasks that we need to do. These are tasks that come out. Here's your RAG states, here's your risks. And I've taken that idea of improving my governance into other businesses I've worked at. And I've been able to sit in front of a head of projects and programs at 2 separate organisations and gone, there you go. And they've just gone, well, we don't need a meeting, it's all here.
Great. It's all organised, it's all there, all the information is there. You can see if you're on track or not, manage expectations, everything's all in one place. And you simplified it as well, so it's not too many documents more than you need as well.
Absolutely. There's nothing worse than having 4 or 5 project reports and going, which one do I share on the screen first? It's just an absolute headache. We had the massive Excel spreadsheet that I talked about, and I also did a top line PowerPoint slide. And when I was at my last project, my last contract, that slide was put into a massive briefing pack for the project sponsor and the end client. So you'd go onto a program board once a month with the client, the other suppliers, and your teams, and they'd flick through the slide deck and you'd see your slide that you'd reported on weekly drop in at some point. Right?
Excellent. Love that. That's really cool.
Used.
Lovely. And you've worked on some really big projects. So I hope you don't mind me asking, but you've done some really quite large scale projects as well. So could you touch maybe on some of those bigger projects and, transformations that you've run and managed, the ones that you're most proud of?
Well, there's 2 I can talk about. There's one that I'm really proud of and one that was an absolute dumpster fire. But let's talk about the dumpster fire first, because they're always fun. It was the NHS. It was a major trust in the north of England. They were a major trauma centre, so they were pretty high profile. If anybody from the NHS is watching this, they'll know who I mean. And it was a massive transformational project. They were doing everything at once, which was incredibly reckless. And there was so many spinning plates. You had to be Houdini to pull it off. It was terrible. And they were doing Office 365 deployment, Windows 10 deployment, and a complete refresh and move of the data centers at the same time. And it was like nailing jelly to the wall. It was impossible.
Terrible,
We were hampered by the trust had no money. We couldn't swap out laptops with the new build was easy. Building the build to go on a laptop was the simplest thing of it, because I had some really good tech guys on that. The problem was the budgets before I'd got there weren't great. And God bless her, the CIO did as much as she could to fix it. But it was the guy that actually thought he was head of IT. He wasn't, but it was that guy that he just went for fads and he just splurged his money up the wall on silly things. So when it came to, I need X thousand pounds for laptops, he'd just look at me and go, no. So we did the best we could. We got a pilot program delivered, and then COVID hit. So I never saw it out. The program was a success in terms of the pilot phase, but I still don't think they've got the whole thing done today. Which, that was professionally hard to take, because I don't like walking away from a job unless it's done. And that was an interesting time. And then the next 2 projects were successes. The first one was for a university in Dubai.
Yes.
If you've ever heard of the Russell Group, it was one of those universities. and it was a complete greenfield. So when we got there, I didn't get out to Dubai, but metaphorically speaking, when we got there, it was a hole in the ground. There was nothing there.
Wow, totally from scratch.
And it was fantastic to work with a really talented bunch of guys on building out the low-level designs. And the high-level designs were done when I got there. We built out the low-level designs, and then we ordered all the kit and got it in. And we built it in the distribution centre in the UK. We made sure it all worked. It had a core, two data centres, so there was redundancy. And the biggest problem with it was the building wasn't ready when we finished building. So we had to get everything in one data centre. But the guys, I am so proud of what they achieved. They moved heaven and earth to get it done. And we got it done, we got it delivered, and I left before it went live. It was an organisation I couldn't work in anymore due to there was a lot of bullying going on of my guys. And I lost one of my project managers due to this bully. And I stood up and I put a target on my back. And when I went back after the Christmas break, I turned around and said, I just quit. I can't do it anymore.
Yeah, sometimes you have to make those decisions, don't you? If it doesn't sit right.
It was reckless. It was very reckless. I wouldn't advise anyone else doing it. But I worked with a recruiter who, as soon as he found out I was leaving, he put me in front of a guy at Telefonica, and the guy at Telefonica hired me on the spot.
There you go. That's it, yeah.
It happened for a reason, and you know, the guy at Telefonica gave way to Raphael Scala as my manager because it was an inside I-35 engagement, and Raphael was one of the best leads I've had the privilege to work with.
Amazing. I'm a big believer of being thankful for things like that, because then it leads you on to, you know, other things.
Absolutely. And then the last one I'll talk about, I'm going to call it a success, even though there's some challenges with it, was the project at Imovis. I was at Telefonica Tech. I needed to make a change because they were offering me a 1-month rolling contract, which wasn't fit for purpose. I couldn't deal with my life change on a 1-month rolling contract. So I said, I'm going to look out for something else. And I ended up crossing paths with Imovis. And I was interviewed on the Friday, which was my father's birthday, in a Hawaiian shirt, nonetheless.
Great.
I'd taken my dad out for dinner. I was interviewed in a Hawaiian shirt after dinner, and I was offered the contract the same day. I did a year there, massive data migration with a guy called Jon, who's one of the best data guys I've ever worked with. Incredibly proud of the guy's work ethic was just insane. He was doing 20-hour days. He was sleeping at his desk. He was a real believer in what we were doing. The MI team had a couple of really good people on that. The BI manager, good guy, wasn't technically, in my opinion, as savvy as other people we had. But I'm not going to rubbish a guy because he passed away a few months ago, which was a little bit hard to hear. There were other people on that project that I had a lot of respect for, and it was ruined for me by an example of what not to do as a leader. And we talked about what happens when things go wrong. I trusted my team, and because I'm not a Power BI expert, I believe we were in a good place. I reported back to the program director. The program director reported to the client. And then we had a show and tell, and I got my ass absolutely kicked. And outside the room, the program director said, "Why the hell did you lie to me? You lied to me and the client." And he demonstrated exactly why he shouldn't be a leader.
That blame.
He chucked blame around like it was party favours. And I remember we were sat in a bar one night. So we'd had a day in the office for a program board, and somebody else said, "Oh, go for a beer. Are you joining us?" I'm like, "I will do." And everyone had gone out their separate ways at the bar. You know, some were in the bathroom, some were outside having a cigarette, some were at the bar, and I'm sat with this program director in our little private area. And I thought to myself, I've got to build a bridge and be humble. So you know what, taking the blame for this isn't going to hurt me, and it salves this guy's ego. So I said, I'm really sorry that the system isn't where I was told it was. I told you what I told you in good faith, and I've just found out that I've been lied to myself. So I'm not going to throw anyone under the bus. It stops with me. So thank you for the feedback. It's going to allow me to grow. And the guy didn't even look up from his phone. He went, "I've had my say. I don't give a Foxtrot uniform Charlie Kilo."
Oh dear, that's a shame. Yeah, you were so professional, and obviously they weren't. So it's a real shame.
It's I don't expect everybody to be an Anu Vidyarthi or a Raphael Scala. I don't expect everybody to be like those guys. When I do get a sponsor or a client like that, it's absolutely brilliant. But occasionally I've got this guy that I'm not going to name, and it just ended badly. It was nice to see that the last thing we did was we successfully delivered the 7 years data migration. That was the big thing, and that was down to Jon. I just took the glory for it.
Great project to be involved in, great achievement there. And it sounds like you've worked with some really hardworking colleagues as well, which made it really.
Yeah. It's not what we do on Coffee with the Hashtag Guy. We've got a good bunch together. So whether it's I'm playing back Jon, whether it's I'm Jon the Hashtag Guy, or whether I'm in a project, I build teams that perform, and I surround myself with people who've got that same mentality and work ethic. I've just finished Arnold Schwarzenegger's latest book, Be Useful, and he's talking about, lift up the world. You can't succeed on your own. Speak half as much as you listen. Surround yourself with people that are doing what you want to do, learn from them and take that into your life. And that's what I've realized I do in any team that I'm a part of, is I build a team of performers and then deliver. I do stumble, I do fall, I do make mistakes. I'm only human.
But you'll always own up to them. Yeah, you're not going to be afraid to do that.
I'm not going to say I didn't. I didn't do that. That was my fault. I'm the PM, and the book stops with me. I'll take a bullet for my team because I know that they will deliver for me. Yeah. And on Coffee with the Hashtag Guy, we've got some really good guys on there at the moment that have, as you've met them, that have been on the bench for a while. Don't understand why, but they've all got a work ethic. And to go back on Monday after missing a call and have some feedback that Kevin ran this show for you while you were away and did a phenomenal job of it, that was a real nice ego boost for me, knowing that the team I've built can function without me. And it was a nice little ego boost for Kevin, who...
Yeah, nice for him, yeah. Excellent. I also wanted to touch on that because you, Jon, are a natural leader. We've spoken about that. Leadership in you just naturally are, it's just in you, and you've created this community. Jon the Hashtag Guy. Could you tell us a bit about where that started and what that involves and what that does?
Yeah. So it started just after I'd left the NHS in 2020. And like a lot of us, we were forgotten by the government. We were on our own. So I met a couple of project managers and a couple of other guys at the IR35 protests in London. And I got in touch and like, well, we're all struggling. Why don't we do like a Skype call? And what happened was that grew out to 3 calls a week. On a Monday would be a general catch up. On a Wednesday, we'd have a guest, so like a CV writer or something, or do a workshop. And then on a Friday, we shifted to an evening and we'd do a virtual pub. so that everyone, you're not day drinking then. Although a lot of people were during COVID, and we had nearly 3 years. It was a massive success for 3 years. We were really well known, and I was the face of it. And at some point, the admins on it decided that they wanted my name off the door, and the knives came out, and I left. They sent me a message the day that we agreed to close the calls down, and said, well, I know the shows didn't work, but we've set our own thing up. So if you want to be part of that, and I'm like, you just want my name off the door.
It was your thing, yeah. You created it.
So I went off to lick my wounds for a couple of weeks, and Alan reached out to me, and he said, look, there's a space in the market, people are struggling, we need you to come back. And I'd never worked with Alan before on anything, so I built out Coffee with the Hashtag Guy, where we meet 3 times a week at 11 a.m. And on a Monday we talk about the market, we talk about how everybody's doing. On a Wednesday we try to do a workshop, so something that's going to add value. This week we're going to do a session on Agile. And then on a Friday, as you know, we normally get a guest, like a recruiter, in to talk about the market, talk about how they operate, and answer some questions, because we're a symbiosis. You can't operate without us, and we can't operate without you. So there's a lot of rubbishing goes on of recruiters, and some of it's deserved, but thankfully not the people I work with now. Yourself, Ben at Gravitas, and a couple of other people like John Stevenson at Be Digital, always checking. And that's the difference, you've got to have that check-in with people. And I think that's why Coffee with the Hashtag Guy is so successful, because people feel somebody knows what they're going through. Yeah. And people need a community. And touching on the NEC, the Arnold Classic, we had about 500 people in the room that were from different walks of life, different countries, but we were all there as a community because we wanted to listen to Arnold. And at the end of the day, that's what humanity is. It doesn't matter whether, what your orientation is, what the colour of your skin is. We are all human. And I build my teams how I build my teams. And I don't care about how anyone's different. If they're the right person for the job, they get hired.
Yeah. It brings it back to that, doesn't it? This community that you've created, and how that relates to your belief on having that team, and everyone works together as a team. We are all in it together, and a group, a team of people is far better than one person as well. You can achieve greater things as a community, as a group, rather than just yourself.
If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with the team.
Yeah.
I think that's what I try to keep at the back of my mind every day. The lessons I learned from my dad about being a good leader, that you look after your team and they look after you. It's not failed me yet. I've had a couple of knocks, but I always get back up and I always go, right, how can I improve? So that's kind of what drives me.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Thank you. And for anyone listening that wants to get involved with Coffee with the Hashtag Guy, how do they do that, John? Explain how
just drop me a direct message on LinkedIn. There's me, there's Adam King, Alan Entwistle, or Kevin Ward. Reach out to one of us, and we'll get you reviewed and get you invited on the first verbal session after that. We'd love to have more people.
Yeah, amazing. Lovely. Wow. Well, thank you so much, John. Thank you for joining the podcast today. Really insightful to hear about your experience.
Thanks for having me, Emma. It's been a pleasure. Have a great day, okay?
Yes, you too. Speak soon. Thank you.
Speak soon. Take care. Bye.